am in Queensland, so that means it is time for the Art of Service live streaming. And today I have Adam Thompson with me. Adam, thank you so much. Where are you located at the moment?
I'm currently in Yatala, right in the middle of Gold Coast and Brisbane, just in one of our company offices.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So that is right the middle point, isn't it? Like it's on the highway going down south for me, coming down from Brisbane.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the area, and by chance, all the major arterial roads are here, so we can get to a lot of the industrial areas, the Gold Coast and Brisbane, quite quickly from here, and it's kind of exploded around us, which is really good.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, the reason why I wanted to talk to you today is, well, I've been wanting to talk to you forever. We've known each other for years and years, probably over 10 years now. I forgot to check when I got the first email that had your name in it, but it's a long time, and you have such an amazing journey, both personal and business. But to be honest, I'm not 100% sure. I know your business is all into to risk, and it's all about having tools to perform jobs more safely. But how would you introduce yourself personally, and how would you introduce your business?
Well, how would I introduce myself personally? Probably as a husband and a father first. Who I definitely love living all alive kind of thing. I love being out there and experiencing life. The business, I would say, we help sites be safer. So our job, like the gear behind me in the training room, is to make sure that our clients are de-risking their site and everything they do. We've got a big push. I don't think anyone can be safe, so it's a constant effort for us to be safer. We inspect, repair and test lifting equipment. So when you see tower cranes all around the city, or whether it's a tunnel or a bridge getting built, we're the guys that do the inspections on the lifting gear. But more importantly, we relay the findings of that back to the client to help them either modify behaviour, use a different product, make a change in what they're doing to create a safer workplace for the end users.
Yeah. And I really love the motto that you guys have is like, everybody's going home. It is such a simple statement, but it's so deep and profound because, in the kind of businesses that you or industries that you work with, that is what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it, like you said, it's pretty deep for us because I didn't get to go home one day. So we were about, it was March 8th, 2008, and the Gateway Bridge duplication was happening, and I was helping an engineer on a site, and we were stationed on the Logan motorway, and I got hit by a truck from behind at 110 kilometres an hour. And, it through our business, our lives, and the ripple effect to our staff and our broader family, we didn't realise it for probably half a decade, to be honest with you, the impact that it had. And it just solidified with us that I didn't get to go home. I was literally just doing my job, and I didn't get to go home. And I had a 6-month-old baby and a 2-year-old, and the diversity between my relationships with them is still now. So my youngest boy, I was his primary carer. My wife was in the Air Force, and my other son, I probably didn't bathe him or look after him until he was nearly 2 years old because I didn't walk for 2 years. So I was going to work doing my job, trying to help out, and I didn't get to go home. So, and that's profound. And everyone here, everyone's really bought into it, and they agree. But we can genuinely make people's sites safer and have an impact.
Yeah. And it's a situation like that, a moment in life like that, has really focused you on your purpose, hasn't it? It's like there's like a pre-accident and a post-accident Adam. It's a different focus in life.
Based on our relationship, always pretty honest with you, Ivanka, I would say that pre the accident, so we started the business when I was in year 12, last year of high school, and the 24th of July, so our 25th anniversary is coming up in a few days. We started it then because it was the first day of my winter school holidays, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And business was booming in the early 2000s. There was so much construction going on that I never knew whether I wanted to stay with lifting gear. I just was working pretty hard and kind of starting my own family and finding a partner, that kind of thing. And then when I had the accident, I realised my body couldn't make me money anymore. I had to use my brain. So that was the first time I finished off a few degrees and went to uni and we opened a new branch. I was still in the wheelchair in the middle of the GFC, and I didn't walk for 2 years. And within 12 months of walking again, I joined EO. And I'd probably say, yeah, there's a real intersection in my life there, and it shaped, the first half and the second half of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting because there's not a lot of people that have such a clear delineation. A lot of people sort of bob through life and go with the flow. But if you look back at your business, so it's not just your personal story, but your business, what has your accident or your life trajectory, because there's more than the accident, how has that shaped how you look at risk? Because your entire business is around risk. So how has that shaped your view on risk management, risk leadership?
Yeah. Pre the accident, we knew what we were doing in the business. We were really good at what we did, and we had heaps of experienced staff. But I'd say we weren't making a genuine impact. We were removing failure from site like everyone else was. But I would say the failure rate every time we're going back to that site was about the same. So really, we were just getting damaged gear off site and fixing it, and they were damaging it again. It was kind of a bit of a life cycle thing going on. I was in a wheelchair getting my hair cut. I had to get my hair shaved because I couldn't wash my hair properly. And I noticed that our hairdresser was able to book an appointment for a specific kind of haircut for a specific kind of person quite quickly. And it was really the first time I started to understand apps and the power that they had. There was quite a long time from when we failed here on site to when the client could go ahead with it, because everything was manual back then. So we were still writing on paper, emailing a quote through, and then they'd give us a go ahead. So you had gear either on-site damaged or off-site, and the client wasn't using it, using something else for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
So our decision was made that we were going to make a genuine impact and reduce the amount of time that gear was on-site that was failed. If I'm really honest, I reckon in the first 4 years we didn't get it done. So in that 2010 to 2014, we went to iPads, we automated the business, we made everything faster. So the failed gear was on site for less time, and we were getting the gear back to site quicker, which meant that people weren't substituting the equipment, which is also where some risk lies. So yeah, we made an impact, but the number of gear failure on site just didn't change. So we made a decision to genuinely change behavior around equipment. We started recording every kind of failure in every environment, geo-timestamped. So now we can go to any industry and say, okay, if we've got a list of your gear, we can tell you what the top 3 causes of failure would be for each piece of equipment, what the top 3 failures out of that equipment are going to be, and how your staff can find those failures inside of 10 seconds. And that's come from 2.5 million asset records, photos of failures, really working with the client. So we've got a water authority that's here in Queensland that their failure rate was 19.8% when they engaged us probably about 7 years ago. And within 3 years, we got it down to 1.8%.
Wow.
We've tracked by industry, construction, tower cranes. At the lowest reduction we've ever made is 50%, and most industries is up around 80%. 80% of the failed gear on site. And we know we're making a difference now, and it's really energizing the team.
Yeah. And how do you make that difference? I mean, it's sort of like, how long is a piece of string? But if I, my background is a lot around IT processes, IT business processes, management of IT services. So we're always thinking about, okay, there's technology, but there's processes, but there's your vendors and partners, but there's definitely the people involved as well. So it's like that holistic approach of running an IT shop or an IT department. So how does that work within your industry? Like when you say we've managed to, improve by 50 to 80%, what's the secret to that?
Yeah, that's pretty easy for us. It's discretionary effort. So there's an Australian standard for all lifting equipment. It tells us what to expect. We just have a lot.
Oh.
You still there, Rilke?
Yeah, I'm sort of like, oh, you're frozen all of a sudden. Well, keep talking. I think I could. Oh, no, you're back. Your internet is red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow. How interesting. We talk about IT and technology.
Are you there, Anka?
Yep. Yep. So we
Sure.
talk about IT and technology, and it decides to die on us.
Yeah, I didn't
Do
say
not
it's.
question us.
Yeah, it's all the IT that did it. It's not us. It's all the technology. Hopefully, won't cut us off again. So we work together with technology. To be honest, there's a standard that covers everything of what we do, and our competitors could quite easily inspect the gear the same way we do. We've had 34 service technicians contribute to our processes, which is amazing. The tenure of staff here is we've got some staff at 25 years, we've got some at 20. We've got a lot of staff around that 15-year mark. So we have a really low churn rate of staff, which is a reflection in our clients as well. So we have a really low churn, which has created an environment where we don't need to try and get new clients all the time. We do really well in long-standing relationships. But what I would say is how we made the difference is understanding the data, understanding that there's that real J curve of, we educate people on what to look as a failure. More gear fails because they now can see it quicker. So the gear doesn't fail the day before we get there. But as soon as they start to realize, oh, hang on a minute, that failure is happening because I'm doing this, they change that behavior and the failure falls through the floor. So it's absolutely education of the end user that does it. And it really helps by being able to say, here's a photo of the thing you were using. Here's the damage it had. Here's why it's failed. Here's how often it's happening. What do you think is causing it? And then teaching them how to inspect it, maybe changing the way they're using the gear. And when they see a drop off in failed equipment, they understand that they're doing their job safer. They're creating a safer environment for themselves. It's really easy to buy into, but it's definitely post inspection for us. So if we were still just going to site, inspecting the gear, failing it, and sending new gear out, I don't think we'd be making a difference at all.
No. So it's not just the replacement of the gear, but it's the education and awareness of the people using and working with the gear on a day-to-day basis.
And understanding that's a journey for the end user. That's probably 5-6 interactions over 12 months, giving them the knowledge, letting them understand, continuing the education, having them understand that it's actually consumable. We'd much rather the lifting gear be damaged than them or the product. So and working through with them that, how they can create a safer environment for themselves and the education that comes with that. And what's really interesting is once you see this equipment damaged, you can't unsee it. So they've got the ability to identify it in others and make an impact broader and broader.
Yeah. So now the multi-million-dollar question, because listening to you, it sort of reminds me of that, that cliche of the cobbler and the kids without the shoes. So in your own business, how do you recognize risk? How do you manage risk? How do you mitigate it? What's your leadership approach towards risk management?
Towards risk management in our business, that'd be fair to say, the cobbler with no shoes. I think it's really important for our guys to understand that there's a real feeling of on stage and off stage. So when we're doing an inspection, you can imagine our guys are getting watched by everyone. We're failing gear, we're stopping construction sites from doing things. If the gear's damaged, there's a high level of communication that's required to the client. So when they get back to the branch, they feel like they've stepped down off stage. So we've got to create an environment for them where they can chill out and relax. It's pretty safe. And there's a lot of common areas in our workplaces. So there's forklifts and cars and traveling. So there's a lot of challenges. So we've got to be just right on top of the fact that if someone's been on stage for 6 hours today on quite a big construction site with a lot of risk, it's not the right time to give them a complex job.
No,
it's just not. So we're managing that consistently. We've got guys doing 40-hour weeks all the time, doing on inspections, and our target for them is only around 6 hours on site. We know that for them to maintain their skill set, their knowledge, their peace of mind, their astuteness to what they're doing, using a different process for every piece of equipment, that the 5.5, 6 hours is about the limit before they're going to start making errors. And we talk about it all the time. We talk about hydration. We talk about, we're construction workers that are talking about mental health on a regular basis. Every Friday, we're wearing our trademark shirts and it's an open conversation. We're guys in Queensland working outside in dirt, in high-vis clothing, bent down, lifting heavy stuff all the time. It's quite easy to get tired and fatigued and use, alcohol to go to sleep and caffeine to wake up and start damaging your mental health. So it's a big issue in construction. So we're just on top of it all the time. We're making sure that our staff have got a life outside of work, and we support that in every way we can. So we've previously had people that are presidents of BMX clubs. We've sponsored the club. Our ops manager's son plays at Canunga, and they needed to travel to Cairns for rugby league. We supported the team. We've supported race cars. There's a fair few people here in motorsport. We've got lifesavers. We make sure they have time off to do that. We've got another guy who's a mechanic on a speedboat racing team. We really try and have that life balance, so they've got an on and off time.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned that mental health, because it seems that, especially because assumptions is that most of your team would be males, and the whole mental health within the male community is so under mentioned, or under lit, or that there's no light being shown on it. So how do you do that, apart from your shirts and creating an open conversation? Because it's not easy to talk about your mental health, and it's not easy to open up, especially when it's like this blokey, it'll be right, mate, and it's Saturday tomorrow, who cares? How do you create that environment?
We have an open conversation about our mental health isn't about what we say, it's what we do. So we're always focused on what the actions are around mental health. So regardless whether you're facing a challenge or not, we're trying to, I think when mental health gets discussed, in my opinion, it's a negative term. So when someone brings up their physical health, they can be physically healthy. It's not that they have bad physical health. And you raise mental health, and straight away it's a negative connotation.
Yeah.
So we're really, really clear on mental health being a positive and a negative, and that everyone's looking after it all the time. And it's all about action.
Yeah.
It's not about the words. Yeah. So we've just got looking towards RDOs in the way that a lot of our guys don't prefer RDOs, but they prefer to choose when they've got the time off. But just making sure that when they've got a passion or something at home, they go, that they physically go. That's not just a conversation. When we're together, we're always talking about how our bodies, you don't look after your physical health, it becomes a mental issue with your adrenal glands straight away. So we're always talking about hydration through the summer periods. We start work earlier. It's all about action for us, always action.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. So do what I do, don't do what I say, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I've got an example, right? So I've got to openly say to them that I've had, right now I'm having quite a tough period, to be honest with you. It's our business is booming. We've done the biggest year we've ever done, and we're desperate to find good quality service technicians. And we've got guys starting at 5 o'clock every morning, and it wears you down. So we've got to have a roster that says, no, you can't do more time. You've got to have a break. You've got to have that day off. You've got to make sure everyone's eating well and hydrating well, but resting.
Yeah. The whole staff issue is, some people talk about it like the great job boom, but I think for business owners like yourselves, it's challenging at the moment, isn't it? So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that challenge?
I've always believed people accept positions and leave bosses. So I take it very personally when people leave. I find it really hard. We've had some people leave us recently because with there's such a low unemployment rate, there's massive opportunities for good humans to make really good money right now. And good luck to them. They've got families. So we've recently lost an employee to a supplier, and he gave us heaps of notice, and he's a really good guy, and I've still got a good relationship with him. So I believe in high integrity exits, but it hurts.
Yeah.
We're absolutely acutely aware of who doesn't fit our business, because we are a family business, and we're probably slow to put stuff on. But I found that in my experience that's a better thing than managing bad stuff. So I work with a lot of my family. I'm lucky enough to have family members work with me. But what's interesting about that for us is obviously it's working, and other people can witness it, because we have people that are working here who are trying to get jobs for their family members. So in our Yatla workshop, we've got brothers working together, at Maryborough, we've got a father and daughter. We had 2 brothers over at Waco. We've got a mother and daughter working in another location. So there's a lot of, we've got mates giving each other's jobs. Yeah, so we've got a lot of people that are working here, witnessing family work together in a healthy environment, looking after each other, and they're obviously safe enough that they would actually invite their own family members to work here and think that it's going to work for them as well.
That must make you so proud.
Yeah, it does. It feels a bit like a plant that you've got to look after all the time, but it's a strong, healthy plant, right? So it makes me proud of the way people carry themselves. And what's really interesting is I don't have to talk about our values very much. Everyone just gets it. There's so much alignment here. And they just know what's right. And there's always a conversation about better and doing it right and what's the right thing to do. And I don't have to promote that at all. We don't have anything plastered around the walls or any of that, what I would say is corporate values. It's genuine life values that align with us in the workplace. We talk about being, you spend more time awake, alive at work than anywhere else. So you might as well be enjoying yourself. So it's a big deal for us to be laughing as well, enjoying what we do.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So the workplace in itself, you say it's a family business, you work with family, there's people working with friends, it's like the business 101 of what not to do. Like when you Google on how to start a business, it's sort of like, do not work with family, do not work with friends, find external partners. So what is your advice, recommendations, your lessons learned, how to make it work? Like if there's people that want to work with family members or friends,
it didn't work early on, I can tell you that. It was quite challenging early on. I think I had to ask my wife not to work here twice. So it's lucky we've got strong relationships. I don't know what my advice would be. My experience here would be that we try and do everything with integrity. I honestly believe you only lose your integrity once. We've got a guy who left us to move up north because there was an opportunity to make more money, and his daughter's got a few challenges. So he's moving back to Brisbane, and housing's pretty rough right now. And he just rang and said, "Adam, what jobs have you got going? I want to work with you guys again," because it was such a high integrity exit. He's going to be living with me for 2 or 3 weeks while he finds a house. And that just isn't a big deal. He's trying to do the right thing by his daughter and his family, and I can help, so I will. Yeah. So I'd probably break all the rules. I just genuinely care. People say, about employees and people that are employed and staff, and I just work with people. They're just humans, right? You just look after them like they're humans. And really early on, I was lucky enough to meet someone that we both know, Peter Nuttall, and he was really clear with me that the learning I took from engaging with him is his customers are his staff, and his staff's customers are the customers. So I just always look at my staff as the people that I need to look after, and I'll look after the customers, and that hasn't done me wrong over the last 25 years.
Yeah. I mean, that's a gold nugget there in itself, isn't it? Like, you as the owner, your customers is your team, the people you work with, and then they look after the external customers. So that's an important one. I like that one.
It's pretty easy for me because we've got like 25 or 30 staff, so I've only got 30 people to look after.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many, hundreds of whatever sites and customers we have. I think we've got 2,500 active sites that we maintain, and I look after 30 people.
Yeah, but looking after 30 people, that can be quite challenging in itself. Like, if you don't have the right people, if you don't have the right attitude, if you don't have the right core values, it can become a chore and becomes really difficult. So you obviously have that balance happening right there.
Yeah, I did get it wrong in COVID. I made some mistakes during COVID.
In what way?
Some things we did well was we're in a high risk industry, and we were defined as an essential service pretty well early on. We had government departments and councils threatening us legally that we couldn't close. So because if we don't look after certain parts, you might not get water or power. And I just said to our staff, there's so much going on. I could be, by the time I finish my sentence, I could be lying to you. So please don't take anything I say as fact. Just take it as truth when I said it. Things are going to be changing so fast. So let's just communicate as often as we can. But one thing I can guarantee for you is you've got a job. You're going to get paid for it. You've got a job. So when you're leaders in our industry, you've got to be leaders in your house as well. So when you go home, I don't know what's going on with your partner and his employment or her employment. You just need to know you've got a job here. And while you're here, I really need you to focus on what you're doing, because people die in our industry all the time. It's serious. So I just needed our staff to focus while I was here. And while I was trying to make our staff feel safe, balanced, and do their job so they're not creating risk for our clients, we could see the ripple effects out to those other families, which was good. That was one of the positives we did. Probably what I didn't do well is I didn't see balance in the team. So our service teams were flat out, and our sales teams, poor guys, were the ones that got stood down all the time. And while I was trying to make sure everyone had a job and we still had money, because in April we lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in 20 days because we just couldn't work, we couldn't do anything. It was the 20th of April before we could move again, and my focus was on making sure that there was a business. And it was probably the first time in the 20-something years that I wasn't looking at our staff first, and that did some damage to some really important people that work here for me. And it's probably, it's a scar I can wear as a tattoo one day, but it's definitely still a scar now.
Yeah. So from that experience, what have you changed going forward?
I don't think any of us were ever the passenger in the journey of pandemic, and I've learned that lesson. So when things go, if we ever get put in that situation again, which I find that once there's been a habit created, people seem to replicate it. So I think the government might push that button again if something happens. But I definitely know the way I'm going to manage in pods this time. So instead of manage the whole team, I'm going to manage in pods, and that way I can manage the impact per service group or our delivery, whether it be sales or admin or our service teams. We're going to manage them as different parts of the business in different ways. Then I can consider those people and the effects COVID's having differently, because some of our service techs were doing 70-hour weeks, and some of our sales guys weren't doing 7-hour weeks. So
so it's managing where the need is, not so much a blanket approach to the entire business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just felt the sales guys doing 7-hour weeks, they're obviously not under any pressure or stress, and they're getting paid. And I didn't look after them as humans enough, and that's what we live by. So it'd be fair to say that they could believe that we lost our values at certain levels during COVID because of the distraction. And it did distract me. I was president of EO at the time as well. So that was a bit on top, but it was just a challenging time.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about EO, because Entrepreneurs Organization, we're both member of the Queensland chapter, have been for a long time. I show it in my grey hair, but that's becoming. Why did you join Entrepreneurs Organization, and why do you stay?
Two very different answers. Why did I join? Peter forced me. Peter just said, "You're joining this. Get on your bike, son." And I was about, like I said, I think I'd been walking for about 10 months after the accident, and he could see. So Pete was my coach when I was about 18, 19 during a management course. So we've known each other, since I was 17 or 17, 18. He said to me, I hadn't had much of my recovery. I was physically moving around, but I was quite heavily medicated, and I was having challenges around not being able to be the person I was. And he said, "Jump on this bike," forced me into it, and I joined EO. I probably didn't get it at first. I didn't understand how it worked the first 2 years, and I nearly left. And then Rowan Wood said to me, "Mate, it's members that make decisions. This is a group of entrepreneurs that have agreed to pool their money to learn. That's it. And the rest of it's just infrastructure around it. And the people making decisions are other people like you. So if you're not happy with the decisions, deal with it or get out." And I was like, I'm in then. And ever since then, my journey's probably changed, and I've learned more about my learning style. So I have to see leaders being good leaders for me to learn. I can read books and audiobooks, and I'm great with the experience share, but I really learn most witnessing someone be a good leader. That's why I've stepped up and stayed on boards the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the boards that you've been the president of the chapter, but then after that you stepped up as expert in the region for member engagement. That's basically how we got to work together, because prior to that we weren't on the same boards. But that's all around accelerators and member engagement and connecting people. So why do you feel so, I mean, I know what my answer is, but why are you so passionate about that?
I remember when I was studying and a professor was telling me, do this, do that. And I said, well, can you share with me what you did? And he said, well, I would do this and I would do that. And I was like, mate, I'm not asking what you would do. I'd really like to know what you have done. And he didn't have any experience. And I just find that EO is the only place you can go and speak to someone and you can genuinely find someone that's had a 99.9%, the same experience. And they're willing to share warts and all with you about what they've done. And it's helped me avoid some massive mistakes in business. It's helped the business move forward. There's so many things that happen in our business today that I've learned through member experience and members engaging with each other. Our global president and also our EO Queensland chapter president, Mick Mullins, said to me, mate, create an event, speak for about 30 seconds and get out of the way. The members just spend time with each other. So that's probably what encouraged me to do member engagement after being a president. But I've been lucky enough to be awarded the position of AD for this year now, because we're in July. And that's actually the role I really wanted to do. So I get to work with presidents this year with a strategy of all the South Pack. And the cohort's amazing. We've just got the EO presidents this year in South Pack are just an amazing bunch of men and women. And to work with them and learn from them, I think they think I'm leading them, but they're actually leading me. I couldn't afford to pay these guys to work with me, to learn from them. And I've got to sit through 6 of their strategy summits, witnessing them be leaders. And all of that's coming back to our business.
Yeah, that's and that's the sneaky secret that nobody knows prior to going into EO, isn't it? Or any business or networking organization, be it business chicks or doesn't really matter. It's the fact that you're in the same room with other people, be it peers or maybe not even peers, but people with the same interest. And like you say, you can't pay for their services, you can't pay for their advice, but listening to other people and sharing their experiences, that is so powerful and so precious, without being all frou-frou.
Without drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I'd agree. I probably noticed that, at parties and stuff, I struggled a bit. I felt like I could write, my favorite color when my kids went to school, the car I drive, how many kids I have, and all that on my forehead, and people wouldn't need to talk to me. No one was talking about, do they have enough money for wages? What is the increase on super going to do to their business? Fuel's going to be $3 by the end of the year. How much are they going to charge as a surcharge on service basis? None of those conversations happen. That's not a barbecue I want to go to anyway, but no one was thinking that way. Yeah. And it'd be fair to say, I hate the term tribe, but it'd be fair to say EO is my tribe. And, you get to be 100% yourself and you get to witness people having those challenges, what they're thinking and how they're thinking about it, and they're willing to share with you openly, knowing that it's not going to go anywhere else. You're not allowed to repeat their stories, but you make the learnings. And Carlo was a big influence on my learning and the style of my learning. He was really clear that around learn plus grow equals value. And I'd say for a while there, I was just learning. It was a bit of a sugar hit and not enough was getting implemented. So I've really slowed down now the amount of learning that I'm doing and making sure that the majority of it's getting implemented and getting better at implementing it in my family, in the business, and for myself, my physical and mental myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because when you start your business, you just want to learn and you want to get other people's ideas, but it's, how do you implement that? How do you get that into your own organization? That's the important bit. It's just reading books for the sake of reading books is not how you grow your business, is not how you grow your career. That's true for professionals as well as business owners. So that's not just, this is like the entrepreneur's Kool-Aid. It's also true for consultants, business professionals, etc.
Yeah.
The
So
other thing that I just heard you say was referring to basically the segue into my next series of questions. Start of a new financial year. It's the 7th of July. It's the 7th of the 7th, which in Australia means it's the start of a new financial year. And although we've had a couple of challenging years behind us with COVID, and COVID is still ongoing, but business is not really focusing on COVID that much, but the flow-on effects are here. So what are the biggest risks you're seeing in the next 12 months for your business or business in general? And what strategies do you have in place?
that's a lot in that question.
I know.
What I'd start with is we openly discuss COVID. So we know we didn't cause it, but we have to manage it. I think there's been I've witnessed a lot of people just going COVID this and COVID that. During the GFC, which is really interesting because I was in hospital the first time Kevin Rudd said GFC, so I can nearly give you the date he said it. So the business was booming when I went into hospital, and then I was in there for 3 weeks and I come out and we're in the GFC. We grew during the GFC. We opened branches during the GFC. What we noticed was that our competitors were willing to use an excuse. So their sales staff are down 20%. They could just say, oh, it's the GFC. So we found it as a time to use what we had, which was being smaller, we could be more nimble. You know, a client that was one of their top 10 clients that halved their spend would still be a top client for us because of the size of the business. So we knew who we were and what we needed to do during the time. We've taken that and we're leveraging it post-COVID. So for us, the excuse of COVID is over. Mm-hmm. We put a stop to that last year, and we've just done the biggest year we've ever done. We're pretty focused on communicate, commit, deliver. So communicating with our clients exactly what it is we need. Even our strategies around reducing failures actually reduces their spend with us. We're very much aware the cost of acquiring a new client is so much more expensive than the cost of maintaining one. So it's more profitable for us to keep a client that's spending less than it is to try and acquire a new client that's spending more. And once we get their failure rate down, it gives us that capacity back to go and get more clients and keep them. So it's like a double whammy for us. What I noticed for us post-COVID is going to be, I think there's been a lot of waste. I see there's a lot of companies that are trying to install software or do things that were reactive to COVID that have failed, but someone's got to pay. And I'm finding the user expense on a lot of that is going up. So service vehicles, buy tires, whether it be freight, whether it be anything else, is just higher. So the cost for us to get a service tech to site now is dramatically increased. And I feel that our clients are going to start measuring the value of the equipment against the service that's getting provided, as opposed to measuring the service that's getting provided against the risk that they're reducing. So we just have to make sure that communication around what they're paying for and what they're actually getting as a result, make sure the value gets compared to that. So just our messaging has to be really, really clear. We've slowed down employing staff. So I say that we've just put on a lot of staff, but we've slowed down how aggressive we're putting on staff. We're finding that over the last 8 years, we've worked out our sums on training because it's so training intense for our service industry. It's cost us double people's wages in the first 2 years. So we know it's about year 6 that we're really profiting well from their time by the time everything's been paid back. So we've got to look at staff that are going to be staying for a decade. It's, hiring's guessing, firing's knowing. So we've just got to be better at guessing.
Yeah.
So we've just slowed that process right down. Even though we've been desperate, we make sure we interview until the cows come home and try and get an understanding of how does that person treat the waitress while we're out getting coffee. Because I think I could teach this job to anyone that's interested quite easily. It's just a matter of time. What I can't teach them is to be a good person. So I'd probably say the challenges post-COVID for us is not being able to acquire those good people fast enough because the unemployment rate would be the expensive delivery to the end user. And I believe that our industry is going to change quite a bit in the next decade. Honestly, it's going to change quite a bit. And we've just got to, during this time, be ready for that.
Yeah. And if you extrapolate that into business in general, so stepping outside of your industry, how do you it's a bit of a crystal ball, but your gut feeling from your experiences going through GFC and going through COVID, what do you see is happening in this financial year, so the next 12, 24 months, that is different from what has happened before?
My exposure to EO and the different kind of businesses and what I witness, I'd have to say the bricks and mortar businesses are doing pretty well. The really boring ones like ours, the ones that just offer service, they're the ones that are doing really well. I'd say it's probably the more exciting businesses to work at, like a V8 supercar experience or something like that. They're the ones that have really taken the hit. I think every bricks and mortar business I've spoken to has the same challenges, staff, but they're actually doing pretty well. Financially, they're doing well and the opportunities are there. Like if you want to have a problem, it's too much work and not enough people, right? That's the problem you want to have. Yeah. So what I'd say is that I've noticed that the bricks and mortar business is doing really well and really strong, and but they do have to watch that expenses that are coming up, and it's those, we might see the return of those Top Gun flight experience kind of businesses because people are going to have a little bit more money. I've tried to start traveling again. It's actually quite hard still. So we just had an event over in Singapore at Sentosa, and I think we paid $110 for two, 4 drinks, or 2 beers and 2 Cokes, right? And there was no room service still, and there was no, the bar was shut by 9 o'clock, and just the experiences, the amount of experience you could do was quite limited. So I don't think globally we've recovered from the GFC, so it's going to from COVID. So I think that people are still going to stay local. So you'll see a lot of caravans are still quite high, and people are still traveling during school holidays, and you'll see a fair bit of that happening. But I think the bricks and mortar businesses and their strength and their stability is what's going to shine in the next 12 months.
Yeah, it's what I've been seeing as well. Like a lot of companies that started up in the last 2 years are predominantly e-commerce businesses, and they seem to be struggling. Like when I read through posts in business groups, it's the people that started an e-commerce or like an Etsy style small business, and they now go like, nobody wants to buy online anymore. Like, what do I do now? Like, advertising is getting really expensive. So that's definitely happening. So I hear what you're saying about the bricks and mortar with a strong customer base, but it still seems that the margins are tight and tighter, and that's something to manage. So where would you, in your because you've been in business for decades, as I have, so where would you start with managing that at this stage? Because your staff are important, but wages are going up. What's your first focus point?
So some of our secret sauce is we survive on discretionary effort. So our business is all about that extra 5% or the last 5% that all our staff are encouraged and instructed, supported, however you want to word it, to do the last 5%, which usually means on non-billing time, post the on-site, have a better conversation with the client, truly understand what they're doing and how we can help. It could be staying back so that person can pick it up after we close. That's not a big deal here. Like our admin staff will ask one of our service techs to stay with them because the client's coming to pick up some goods that are worth a couple of $100, but they know it's the right thing to help that person out. So discretionary effort's really, really important to us. And I think the easiest way to separate, team, people talk about I'm part of Stenhouse, or I'm one of Stenhouse, or I'm part of the team. The easiest way to separate someone from your team is mess with their paycheck and see how quickly they say they did that to me. So I'm acutely aware of people are here to earn money. People are here to provide for their families, and I've got to provide them that opportunity. So the number one thing for us is that they're paid well and encourage that discretionary effort. So we just have to manage our expenses in other ways. We've shifted software recently, which has allowed us to go from one scheduler to every 6 or 7 service techs. They're going to be able to handle one scheduler to every 15. Now, a scheduler isn't losing their job over that. What it does is it allows us to have capacity without having the overhead. So my job is to just get simplify, right? Just get it leaner and leaner and leaner. Even our branches, we really focus on not having anything in the branch the client doesn't want to pay for. So you won't see accounts department sitting in every branch. You won't see salespeople sitting there. Our service tech shouldn't be there. They should be out on site. So everything we can do to run the business lean means that we can keep looking after the staff and their wages and understand they can get a wage anywhere. I think it's really easy to get a job, but it's hard to get a purpose. Don't mess with their purpose and don't mess with their wage.
Yeah. That is a perfect way to finish it, because I think that's a really strong business experience and advice for everybody who wants to build a business that is strong and ready to tackle whatever comes at them in the future. So thank you so much, Adam. That was amazing. Great experiences. And if people want to have a chat with you, if they want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
They can jump on LinkedIn, grab my details, email, everything's there, or I'm happy if you know them, you can pass out my details.
Excellent. I will do that. So don't go anywhere. I'm ending the live stream now, but I'd love to have another chat with you afterwards. So don't run off. Again, thank you very much, Adam, for your time this morning. And I'm going to